Today we are making some pork pies. The first step is to make the trotter stock, which we're going to use to form the jelly. 2 pig's trotters into a pot, cover with water, half an onion, a carrot, a teaspoon of fennel seeds and a teaspoon of white peppercorns. They go in, and 2 bay leaves. Once it's boiling, there's some scum will rise to the top, and that's natural. We're just going to skim that off, and then we are going to simmer it gently for about 4.5 hours. Do it the day before, set it in the fridge overnight, you're golden. Traditional old pastry using lard, plain flour and water. Plain flour, seasoned with salt, make sure the salt's nicely combined, and then we're going to make a well in the middle. The water's just come to the boil, the lard's all melted. I cannot stress enough, this is hot boiling water and fat, so do be careful. Use a wooden spoon and just bring it together. This is like such a cool old school recipe. Roll your sleeves up, you don't want crumbs on your sleeve. We're just going to get our hands in. It is still quite warm. If it's too warm for you, just wait a few minutes for it to cool down a bit. And you just bring it together with your hand until you've got a more uniform dough. Beyond that, you don't need to do much. You're not trying to work gluten. Just come together like that. You're good. Back in there, and then probably need to leave that for 20 minutes to cool down. We've got some pork mince here, and then I've got a really nice piece of dry aged belly here. And I took the end off a ham that we're cooking. I just wanted a little bit of the gammon. Is already brined, so it adds a bit of seasoning, but it also helps to keep the meat pink. So we're going to dice it. The dice is really up to you. What I would say is that a good pork pie needs a high fat content. You've got to bake the pie quite high to get the pastry cooked. If you don't have the fat cooked, the pie itself, the meat in the pie is going to end up being pretty dry. We've got a selection of spices here. We've got blade mace, we've got juniper berries, there's white peppercorns, fennel seeds, 1 star anise, and a couple of rogue coriander seeds in there. Toast it in a pan until they start releasing their aroma. To your spice grinder or pestle and mortar. We've got pestle and mortar. Ground up into a nice fine grind. We're going to season with salt, obviously. Everything that's delicious needs salt. Pinch of these ground spices. All these spices play into the flavours of the pork and the pie. It's just to give little notes. You don't want a spiced pie necessarily. That's too much. Now mix it all together with your hand. The best way to check whether the salt levels are good is to just fry off a little bit of the mix and give it a try. With these things, also important to bear in mind, this is kind of a good tip. When you're eating it cold, it tends to need more seasoning. Now we've got to build the pies. We're hand raising, so there's no need for a rolling pin. Save 1/3 for the lids. Press it around the bottom. Then you want to go around. If you can see there, it's got too thin. You just touch it up. You pull in a bit of pastry from another part of it. It's never going to be completely even all the way around, of course. We're not robots, but you can see where it's got too thin, too exposed, the metal, and we just push a bit of pastry from another part of the pie. Pies around the mould. Now we're just going to form some lids. So a couple of lids there, and they need a hole cutting into the middle of them. Final step before actually cooking the things is to fill them. I'm pretty full, not too full. Too full and there'll be no space to put any jelly, and it'll bulge and it'll burst the lid. In case of fixing the lid to the rest of the pastry, and a simple crimp will work. Just important to make sure that it is sealed. So I think that looks kind of neat and rustic. You can't say that, can you? That's an oxymoron. That looks rustic and nice and rustic. What we're going to do then is give it a quick egg wash. Note of caution here, don't let any egg run in here because that will then seal, which means when you come to putting the jelly in later, you've got an issue because the jelly can't get to the corners of the pie that it needs to get to. Into the oven they go, 200 degrees for 20 minutes, followed by a further 25 to 30 minutes at 160. Pies are out of the oven. Let them cool down a touch, but not too much. And then we're gonna jelly them. So in it goes. And this is a kind of moment of truth for the quality of the pastry. There we go. Is it going to spill out? They're thirsty things, pies, it turns out. You can see that the jelly's come to the top there. If we, in a couple of minutes time, it'll absorb in and we'll have to top it up, keep on topping it up until it can take no more, until you've got the jelly set at the same level as the lid.